Hey folks, today I am joined by one half of the peerless rare candy podcast empire, the hardest working man in pod business, and last I checked, the least autistic man in the world, Glen Rockney. Glen,
Man,
thanks for joining me, man.
yeah, I don't know. I think I slipped on the second part that you said there. I think I slipped the other day because Anna Kachian on Twitter posted about Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots, wearing
Yeah.
a hoodie to like a thing, and I was like, actually, he wears that all the time. Actually, that's the only outfit he has. And then I was like, oh no. I might have lost it there. Yeah, just don't bring up sports around me, then you'll agree.
Right. That's hilarious. We're fresh off of you and I had a great conversation about Don DeLillo's Libra on your Gain of Fiction book club show, and that's coming out soon. I really enjoyed it. I'm geeked about Libra. I'm working on the back end episode for Method Madness, kind of the companion piece where I'm gonna get weird with it, and it's a good book for that because there's so many places to go. It's
I feel like we kind of did. I feel
we
like
did,
we did a little bit. Like a little bit.
Absolutely.
We kind of went
absolutely.
there. And the beauty of that conversation was that I had things I wanted to talk about, and then there were like things unlocked during there. I'm like, yeah, but what if? Yeah. And I was like, that's just the beauty of talking about these things is that you think you're going in with like, I'm going to say this, 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 and this, and you still say those things, but those end up becoming just distant, like far away in the rearview mirror of what you end up talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a bit of, in this whole podcasting thing, there's a bit of like, you got a plan, but then the plans don't really mean all that much once things are happening. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. The notes, my notes are always so funny. I can't tell you how many times I've written notes down, and I realized that I write notes. I really don't do it as very often. Like Sai and I have a shared notes thing where we'll just like type funny stuff to each other, and like if we both start laughing, we'll be like, okay, remember to say that, and we'll do that. But for the most part, like I never open them up while I'm recording because I don't. Nice. I want to look at the person. I'm talking to you. I don't want to talk to my notes. And and I there are people who like very MFA about it that are like, no, I had some stuff. I don't have the privilege of the MFA lifestyle in terms of that's right. Not the way I think. Some people say it's a good thing, but there's also the note. It's just you kind of just like, okay, we're recording, we're having fun. This is what a book club is,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And dude, yours, I mean, I listen to my fair share of book related podcasts and have a book related podcast. Gain of Fiction is. I always learn a lot, but it's also like the most fun of them to listen to. Like everybody you have in there, everybody's having a good time. Everybody's like read the book and they've got smart stuff to say about it, but it's sort of not bound to. There doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like everybody got an assignment. It feels like it's genuine enthusiasm, and I love it. So definitely, people, if you haven't listened, you gotta get behind that paywall for a little while. But if you haven't, definitely check out Glen's Gain of Fiction on the Rare Candy feed. It is a treat for sure.
And we did give one away for free recently. So if you're really just like absolutely not, there's no way it's good. Go ahead hold your credit card information is not worth being put in. You know what I mean? If you feel that way about it, we did do one on Michael Crichton's 2002 novel Prey with J. David Osborne, which I think is great, and that's a great taste of like what goes on after. Because like you said, I wanted a bar atmosphere kind of people talking about a book, and not in like there was a viral post the other day of a guy saying that if you want to be like a literary writer, you have to like go to bars that like boomers hang out in and like have these like Bukowski moments, and I didn't care for it too much. It was funny. It was one of those ones where the guy goes, wow, I didn't realize what I was saying was so controversial. We're like, no, it was just kind of dumb, but whatever. I don't want to create that type of I really want to create like, you read that book? Oh shit, I read that book too, man. Whoa, this happened, this happened, and you get excited, and nobody's worried about, using certain words to describe narratives and stuff. It's really about like the book proper, like what's happening in the book, each one's different because yet every author is different. There's certain authors we focus on, Michael Crichton, Thomas Pynchon, people like that you really want to do their whole catalog. Michel Houellebecq, they're all on there. But to be honest, I've read there's pulp sci-fi on there, just like 50s pulp sci-fi that's really good on there. There's a lot of crime fiction, like really like stuff that you wouldn't expect a lot of people to do book pods on, like it not the capital L literary stuff, which I also still love.
That's another thing that I love about it. It's like it's a very there's a kicking off this show, I've been making a list of books that I'm gonna talk about with guests, and yeah, you sort of want to hit stuff that's interesting to people, but there is you can get on a track of talking about like whatever 50 books that there's already dozens of podcast episodes about. So when you guys drop like Michael Crichton stuff, I mean, I'm not paying that close attention to the podcast world. But I don't know that anybody's talking about Michael Crichton, and certainly nobody with your enthusiasm. And I love it because that's kind of how I got into reading. I mean, my first books that were made for grown-ups, I read in elementary school. They were Michael Crichton and Stephen King. So, and I still have fondness for them. Too bad, Stephen King, they'll sometimes I think the less said about him, the better anymore. But
I find him comical though. It's almost just funny because it's 100% real. I think his thoughts are 100% real because I know people who think just like him. They think that that's funny. I've had IRL family members text me screenshots of his like epic dunks that he does and be like crying emojis. And I'm just like, wow, wow. That's amazing. But with Crichton, you brought that up. People do read him when he's young. I didn't read Michael Crichton when I was a kid. I have this crazy. He was this guy that you're a very woo woo guy, kind of like myself, where certain synchronicities keep happening and you realize like, look, thing is either trapping me into something evil or showing me something really good. Most of the time I think it's good. I think there's when I have a positive outlook on the world. So my first time, is Jurassic Park, but I didn't know who wrote the book Jurassic Park. I was 3 years old when the movie came out. So Steven Spielberg is who did Jurassic Park to me until I'm about 18, 19 and I get a job at R.I.P. Borders Booksellers. I get a job there at this very like outdoor ritzy shopping mall area in California. This whole thing's been leveled down. The place doesn't even exist anymore. That's why I'm fine with talking about it. And I was overnight inventory there. So it was really fun. And I would just kind of, all night I would just be listening to music. And I still wasn't like a voracious reader yet, but these names would pop out. And I was putting together the Michael Crichton shelf. It took me 3 days. I mean, the guy just has books upon books upon books, different editions of these books, awards. So that stayed in my mind. I only worked there for about a year. So then just time keeps going by. The whole COVID stuff is happening. Very odd. Living in a techno thriller really helps. And then all of a sudden, my in-laws, they live in Nevada in a very senior citizen town. So they don't have any. They just now got Amazon Prime, like the streaming service, Amazon Prime. For the most part, they go to the library and rent DVDs, and it's and their library is lit. They have some awesome DVDs there. Like they have like 3 Days at the Condor on DVD, like really good like conspiracy movies, like boomer conspiracy theory movies. So one time, my mother-in-law just shows a movie that says it's called Coma, starring Michael Douglas and Genevieve Bujold. And it's a hospital thriller. It's directed by Michael Crichton. I saw it back. I'm like, this dude directed a movie? And so she was like, we should watch it. I said, yeah, let's watch it. It was a phenomenal movie. Yeah. And then I picked up Andromeda Strain because gain of fiction is kind of a similar aspect to that. Loved that. And then just started ripping through it. And I realized, okay, this guy at one point in the 90s had the number one book, number one TV show, and number one movie adaptation at one time. Simultaneously, we don't hear a thing about him now. A little thing he did in 2005 called State of Fear might have helped with that. He definitely went against a very crazy narrative happening in the world there, which is a masterpiece of a novel. But you don't hear about him at all. Yet there's still new Jurassic Parks coming out. There was a Westworld, HBO Westworld that came out. A lot of his IP is still thriving. And I was like, there's something here. And I mean, you talk about disclosure, or even stuff that isn't like, machines rising and stuff like that. Stuff that's very Rising Sun, these novels. I mean, the guy's fantastic. And I think literary writers will go, yeah, but what could it really be? And then you see the people who write in genre fiction stuff. They're kind of like, yeah, but so many people have like expanded beyond that and written very good genre. I go, yeah, but this guy kind of did it all. He kind of did it all, and it was able to. You were able to be a few glasses of wine deep as like a boomer, just like reading his novel. And even if you didn't understand the technological impact of it, the thrill was there. And I think for anybody who writes, if you want to learn to plot, and this is a J. David Osborne thing, if you read Michael Crichton because his plotting is so good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's easy, like I do come from that MFA world, and it's easy to dismiss guys like that. One hand, it's because they're commercial, but the guy, and I haven't read a Michael Crichton. I read the one about pirates he had a few years ago because my wife was like insisting that I did. I can't remember the name of it now.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I haven't read that.
It was pretty good. But there's the one thing you kind of admire about him is like the dude, other than getting paid, $1 billion to write the sequel to Jurassic Park, I'm sure he never really like repeated himself. None of these books are like it's not just like Congo isn't just like Sphere, is just like Jurassic Park. They're all like innovative, original, fresh premises entirely. So like I admire the hell out of that for sure. And I think there's also a thing I say this as somebody from the MFA side. There's like you get these conversations about plot, and you'll see people say they don't care about plot at all. But I think some of that from writers and like emphasis on the some of it comes from the fact that plot is hard and they don't want to do it.
Dude.
So, yeah.
Well, that's true. And I think I've noticed that too, because I don't write. And I think that's also what makes my, book thing kind of work a little bit, because I think I swear I'm probably one of the few people with like a regular book pod that doesn't write. Like it's just I'm not saying it's better or worse. I just mean it's a different perspective, and a lot of people. That's why I'm able to put one out every 2 weeks, because I'm not working on a novel. Right. So right. I don't have to step away for two. I don't have to step away for 2 months like some people. To finish a novel, promote it, and stuff. Like it's a thing like that. But I like a good plot. It's not 100% what I need. I like when you can be like Michel Houellebecq, where you can hop in and out. He can hop into journalism commentary mode, hop back into a plot. I love when people can do that. I don't think there's a formula. What I will say is that I see a lot of people trying to write. Now, the theme now is to take that Joan Didion detached style with no plot, but just your detached tone is supposed to be this commentary of what life is like now. Right. And you go, no. Joan Didion, it was interesting what she was detaching from. That was what was interesting. And her knowledge and like being really into driving and all of these things, while just kind of like not caring about the social interaction happening in front of her. Yeah. Like that stuff is interesting. You're talking about people who just don't do anything, detaching from nothing. Right. And not writing plot with that. And then they say, well, I'm a literary writer. It's like, well, no, you suck. Actually, that's actually what's happening. Like you're just not good at it.
No, I think there's some truth to that, and of course it's not speaking to any particular.
I'm generalizing.
I like everything in a book, right? So I like plot, I like characters, I like when stuff gets really weird, I like I like experimental stuff, whatever. Sure. But I found myself like this project I'm working on right now. I'm not going to say a ton about it, but like I just decided that I was going to write like the most plot heavy thing I've ever written. Just like it's going to be boom, 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 boom. I'll find spots to say like interesting stuff or whatever in between, but like this thing is going to work like a mechanical clock. It's going to like, and it's fun and it's hard as hell. Because it's very like. It's very, I'm probably almost overdoing it, but it's a super interesting challenge to just like everything that happens has to lead to something else that happens, and it has to all sort of mean something. And it's, we'll see what it does. But I probably in that case will take more from somebody like Michael Crichton than, even somebody like Don DeLillo, honestly.
If you're a guitar player, you might want to sound like so-and-so. You might want to sound like Steve Vai, however. But sometimes you might want to just listen to some punk, some 3-chord punk, just to figure out how to incorporate that into what you do. It doesn't mean that you're going to copy that person verbatim. In fact, I don't even think copying is like that bad, as long as it's a collage, right? As long as you're incorporating a bunch of things, like that's how creativity works, is you are what you've last consumed a lot of times, and then or what you've experienced and things and all of that, and that's kind of what's happening in a lot of this stuff. But I think to me, and I go back and forth. If you look at the reading list and the episodes that come out, you'll get. I'm trying to think of I never remember the order I did these things in, but like there will be times where it'll be like, Roberto Bolaño, Thomas Pynchon, this and that, and then like, Jim Thompson's The Killer Inside Me, which is just an absolute pulp, disgusting 200-page ripper cigarette chain smoking novel, like, of just paranoia. Like, I need that from time to time, where I just, and then I'm craving what I just left after that. And my goal with what this is obviously to be entertaining and have a book podcast that a lot of people listen to, but also it's the Field of Dreams method, where if you build it, they will come. I want writers to write knowing there's an audience that consumes this type of media. Like, there's a lot of writers that are like, who's going to read this right now? And I think that's fair, and I'm not making big, broad commentaries on who gets published, who doesn't. I just think there's a lot of people that, like, it's like, hey, if I write a book about, this, is anyone going to care? And the answer might be no sometimes, but for the most part, I want people to at least create an ecosystem where we have good pulp novel, we have good plot heavy kind of airport thriller stuff, and then we have capital L literary stuff. And I want all of that stuff to exist the way it used to. Not everything won back then, but as we look back on 20 years, when we look at, like, Michael Crichton's Prey coming out 3 years after David Foster, or a few years after Infinite Jest, you know what I mean? Just like that. The fact that those two books could be in the same bookstore at the same time as quasi-new, that's pretty cool. That's kind of where I want to get again. Whereas you might like one more than the other. I'm just glad they're both there as options.
Yeah, I love it. See, this is one of the reasons that I vibe with what you're doing in Gain of Fiction so much, and I really want to point people in its direction, is because there is there's sort of a lot of cynicism in the sort of literary or fiction space. Yeah. And, like, for good reason. I mean, some of it does come from this, like, the publishing industry. From a writer's perspective, it feels like it's failed us. And I'm sure from a reader's perspective, you might not notice that, but it has failed you as a reader too.
Just 100%.
Right. Just by not putting stuff that you want in front of you for the most part. And so, like, the cynicism is sort of warranted in a certain way. But what I don't like is, like, the attitude where we're going to drift into, like, there's a good book can't be written anymore. There's, like, no enthusiasm. We can't just like stuff. We have to have like the deconstructive take on everything. We can't just like it and explore it. That space feels like totally where I want to be, and where I think I'd like to see all the energy going with this kind of thing.
I think it's so interesting. You talk about modern publishing, which I haven't read a lot of stuff that's been put out, pretty much anything that's been written in modern publishing. But I will. I feel kind of confident just casting it aside. I don't know. I feel bad, but I feel like I look at it and I go, I know exactly what that is. And perhaps I'm being prejudiced. Perhaps I should go through some of that stuff just so I can say what I'm about to say. But then I can go on my Twitter timeline and see our authors who I have read that are very good. Present company included, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just I've read some of your short works and stuff. Like, I know you know what you're doing. Anna Krivlapova, J. David Osborne, Kelby Losack, all of these people, Emily Russo, like, these people are really good. These are people I know, and it's not just me big upping my friends. I would probably not, like, I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to promote their stuff if I didn't like it. And and it's just like, these people aren't getting published, right? I don't know if they're submitting it to publishing or not. I'm not sure about that, but I'm thinking this is good enough to be put out in a mass market. It's commenting on things that are really prescient in the world, and I'm just thinking, look, we got to create at least a demand for the supply. And I think readers are less curious than they've ever been, which I think that's kind of one thing I have over a lot of people, is that I'm curious. I'm very curious. I want to ever expand. I'm a maximalist and all this stuff. Like, there will be people that I know there's a lot of people that lie about books they've read on especially on social media. They'll lie about it. Yeah. I don't. I'll just go, no, I haven't read that yet. I can't wait. No, I haven't read that. I can't wait. I really want to read everything, and I want readers to be curious again, and start looking under the couch cushions for stuff. Start really, it's okay if you read a bad book. It's okay if you read it. It's not the end of the world if you spend 2 weeks reading a book that didn't do anything for you. But just get in that mindset of reading all the time and finding things, whether it's genre, whether it's literary, whether any of these things. Like, readers need to be more curious instead of being curated to. You need to start kind of going out there and finding things.
Yeah, I think there's a were you around when I know you're a little bit younger than I am, but were you around when Napster came on the scene? Like,
Yes, I was.
Okay, right. So
Kazaa more so. I was more of the Kazaa generation, like 3 years later.
Okay,
But I did have
right.
Napster. I did have Napster.
Yeah. So there was this sort of thing like you did. I mean, before that, like I don't know how. I guess you found out about music through like it was on MTV or was on the radio, and then like you could have like a friend who was super into weird, like something different than you were, and they would, dude. I remember when I was like 15 or 16. This older guy, he seemed older than me, a lot older, but he's probably 23 or something that I worked with, right? I cooked ribs and deep fried chicken at this place. And he asked me, he was really into rap music, and I wasn't not into it, but I didn't know that much, whatever. He brings me in a stack of burned CDs, and that changed my life, dude.
Yes.
It literally did.
I had that same thing happen, by the way. Yeah, that's hilarious.
I mean, there's still a couple of those albums I still listen to that I never would have heard of if he hadn't brought them in.
That's how I learned Cannibal Ox, The Cold Vein, my junior year in high school. My friend handed me in the weird multicolored CD case, of the cases that came in like the colors of the rainbow, and he would like hand me one, Cannibal Ox, like a Windows CD, and I had that on my computer. I immediately put it on my computer, and I didn't even know what it was, but I would just leave it on in the background. And it's not an album I go back to all the time, but I was like, it just felt like, wow, there's a whole frontier. It's like finding a store that you've never gone to that's been down the street from your house this whole time, and just realizing, actually, this is where I should have been this whole time,
Yeah. So you get these like all these like nooks and crannies and like sort of weird neighborhoods in the music world, and we were able to like explore it as the technology expanded. We were able to like explore not only the Napster but the CD burning stuff too. You were able to like really search much more readily, and I think like the publishing thing is sort of like catching up to that. I mean, the line between self-publishing and being on some kind of publisher is blurrier and blurrier all the time. Right. And so like it does get to the point where you can find stuff that very, very few other people have read, and that doesn't necessarily mean it isn't incredible. Usually what that means, if you there's bad self-published stuff just like there's bad whatever else, but
yes, there is.
You can come across something great, and the reason that nobody's read it is just because the author like isn't active on Twitter. That's the only reason that nobody's read it. It doesn't have anything to do with the quality or anything like that. It's the author just hasn't figured out how to present themselves to the world very effectively yet. So it's kind of exciting in that regard.
It's interesting that you say that, because I was just like, anytime I'm doing an author that I just don't know anything about, but I hear people talking about them, so okay, let me take a look. I'll add them to my list. I was doing John Cheever, great short story writer. The guy, pretty kind of floored, honestly, at how good the stuff was. I kind of expected it to be very dry, newspapery short story.
No,
like,
so good.
I'm like, this was what people were reading in 1947 in the New Yorker. That's like, my Lord, it was just like what we talked about with Rolling Stone last time. You're just like, where have we gone? And but he would go on TV with John Updike, and they would just be like talking shit on TV. And guess what? I wanted to read both of their things afterwards. I was like, that was awesome. And I think a lot of writers just need to like not try to be so mysterious. Like, I'm sorry. Like, we're in the age of transparency. I know there's a whole, like, there's the Thomas Pynchon, the Don DeLillo, the cold, like, mystique, like, oh, nobody ever talks to this guy. No. Yeah. I don't know if that works anymore. If you want your book read. If you want your book read, people want to know your every damn move. Now, you don't want to be commenting on every political thing. Like, if you go to, like, Don Winslow's Twitter, it's, like, it's pretty bleak. But you want to, like, go on a podcast and people will go, well, we're going to talk about my book. Yes, but actually more often, you go on my show and you're entertaining, people will buy your book. Right. If you're an entertaining, charismatic, affable person, people will go, his book's about this, but these guys talked about something else for a long time, but he was entertaining. Right. And there's just a different way. Like, we need to stop kind of using the old method of promotion, because that's what doesn't exist. I don't believe that the great American novel is dead, but the industry of that great American novel completely leveled. It's done. That's done. We have to push this out in different ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And and I think this is becoming like a generally recognized thing amongst people who are enthusiastic about books. I mean, there was just an article in the New Yorker, and in some ways, who gives a shit if it's in the New Yorker or not? But it was literally about like, is the next great American novel going to be on Substack? And the conclusion was kind of like no, but at the same time, it was like spending time talking about writers who don't have book deals, right? Who are like, and suddenly their name is in the New Yorker. I don't know that a self-published writer's name has been in the New Yorker ever. So that's an indication of like some things giving way a little bit. And I think that's awesome. Yeah, I think there's also, this recognition. It's funny. So there was that article back in, I guess it was March now, in Unheard, Matt Sinney's article.
Yeah, sure. Great article.
The Literary Man Isn't Dead article, and I know you were interviewed in it, and I was, and Kevin, my former co-host at Art of Darkness, was interviewed in it. And that was in sort of response to an earlier New York Times article that was, I think the title of it was "The Decline and Fall of Literary Men Should Worry Everyone," which the one thing is, like, I kind of respected the New York Times article in a way. It was kind of cool for it to, like, somebody finally admitted, somebody who wasn't getting paid to finally admitted that, like, there was this disparity. But it also, like, I hate that "should worry everyone." It sounds like that, there's a chemical under your doctor.
Ask your doctor about being a literary man.
Right. There's a chemical under your sink that could kill your entire family. More at 11.
Have you been storing your bread in this type of container? Think again.
Right. Exactly. I was like, I don't know if everyone should be worried, frankly, but I don't know. Like, the part of it is, there's this discourse on, like, one side that's like men don't read, and then you've got a show called Gain of Fiction people listen to. There's a bunch of fiction podcasts that are doing, none of us are making Rogan money, but, like, people listen to these shows for sure. There is an audience. Luckily we get to draw on the entire English speaking world, so that helps. But but what is that? Do men read? Is that just like a misnomer that men don't read, or is it that men do read and they don't read the stuff that's being sort of paid attention to? Like, what do you make of this men don't read thing?
Well, I've noticed that there's kind of a femininity to people saying they read fiction. That's one thing I ran into that I didn't know was the case at all. Like, when I first started doing this, I'm kind of naive in a lot of ways. Like, and I think just because I'm a first idea, best idea guy, I don't research whether, like, what the optics of things are. I just do them, and sometimes, like, I picked up James Ellroy. I kind of got back into reading around, like, 2021, maybe 2020, 2021. Because I listened to Howling Mutant on a podcast. And anybody who knows that, I mean, that's kind of a funny way. The guy's very smart, by the way. He's an extremely smart, well-read man.
You can't be that funny.
He's not like what you see on Twitter is funny, but, like, he's a very smart man if you hear him, like, talk about books. And he was talking about the Black Dahlia, and I said, man, that sounds really good. So I just picked it up. And bought it. And I read it, and I said, this is better than anything I can watch on TV right now. I was away from my phone while I was doing it, and I feel incredible afterwards. Whereas there are people who will be on their phone all day, worried about masculinity while on their phone all day, telling you only need to read nonfiction. And it's like, no, you are processing life and consuming life in, I won't say it's a feminine way. I think it's like this, like, neutered, genderless way that, like, really just kind of, I don't care for it, and men get kind of hung up on stuff. Like, I've noticed, and if you read this way, it's fine. Like, I was talking about the Kindle the other day, and people, like, freak out about the Kindle. They're always like, dude, my relationship and romance with my Richard Bachman collected series. Right. There's nothing. I go, no, I get what you're saying. I still read for Libra. I read the physical copy of the book because I had the book. But, for my Kindle, when I read something, I have a self-awareness that I'm not, like, I don't understand what happened in the 18th century in Russia. So when I'm reading something from that time, it's kind of nice to not have to pull my phone out to look up what the hell any of this stuff means, because that's what I'm on my phone then. So what I mean is, like, I think a lot of things that take you away from, like, this vortex of current things and reaction and stuff, I don't like to describe those things as feminine and weird. And then on the flip side, I don't think a lot of books are being written for men and published for men. And I know that's kind of lazy to say, but you go into any bookstore and you see what's at the front of it. Their idea is not that, wow, I hope a white male buys this. Like,
Right.
it's just not, you look at it, it's just that objectively that could not be the business model.
Yeah.
And so that's why the self-publishing thing, like, go check them out. Like, go check these things out and read the classics. I was joking the other day about how there's people who talk about contemporary literature being like so good because it's like they don't want to sound like they're being right wing by like hating on it. Or something, and then you'll look at their podcast. All their stuff they cover is all like Charles Dickens and like stuff from the past. I'm like, well, so you don't even really think it's good, So you would cover these things if they were that good. So it's just funny. Like, read the classics, and I think if enough people read the classics, you're going to start craving for contemporary things that aren't the classics because that's a different time, but have the same energy. And that's why I just think, I don't know if that even answers your question. I just think that like this whole reading, men, I don't think men do a lot of reading. I think they think like nonfiction, like war books are like the only thing that are like masculine for men to read. And I just don't think that's true.
Yeah. No, I do. Yeah, that's the thing is I do think there has been a cultural sort of bias or something that a lot of men don't think that they can read. I do think like for guys that are intellectually curious at all, and I don't mean to make that sound like a pretentious thing, just like, just people who are curious about shit. I do think as they get older, I don't know if it's like some kind of slowing down or they're sort of secure. They're not worried somebody's going to say they're gay or something, but like, because I know some of my friends in real life, smart guys, but they weren't really readers. They are kind of starting to pick up books now, fiction novels a little bit more now. I don't know that that's my influence. It might be in a couple of cases, but like I think it is like I don't know. It's sort of like the back half of their life. I think they'll probably be at least, they're not going to read like you or I have to do to kind of keep up with our endeavors, but they're going to read, in the summer, they'll read a novel, maybe they'll want to, beach novel, they'll read something in the winter. It'll be kind of part of their life, which I think is cool. I had, interestingly enough, I was thinking about, I thought about this after the Matt Cine interview, after I kind of responded to him. I realized that when I was in, I think, 9th grade, I mean, I was already a voracious reader, but I think when I was in 9th or 10th grade, I had an English teacher who was a amateur bodybuilder. Like, he competed. He was crazy. He was jacked. I mean, he was like 5'10", 240, jacked. And he would like help the football team learn how to power lift after school and stuff like that. Total jack, totally masculine. His hobbies were like fishing and hunting. Yeah. And he was the English teacher. And I think that was super good for me because it was like, oh, you can be like literally look like a G.I. Joe and also read William Faulkner. Like you can also read novels, and those two things do not contradict each other. So that was incidentally, I think a really good influence for me to not think. I never fell into that trap in thinking that reading a novel was like not.
It was weird. Manly. I never understood that, and I would read stuff off my mom's shelf as a kid, which is that is feminine. You know what I mean? Like I would like I'm reading Water for Elephants. Wow. Like this is great. Which solid book, by the way. But I would read like what was on her shelf, and she had a lot of Stephen King, a lot of things, and it was kind of the way if I wasn't really like old enough to see certain movies. My mom let me read whatever I wanted, so it was like she was like, "Well, you're gonna earn it. You're gonna earn it." And then you see like you'll read some Stephen King stuff, like especially some of the old stuff, and you're like, "Whoa," and it kind of scratches that itch shock factor to for this. But I just think that the to people that think it's not masculine to read fiction, like you think of like the way that the Great Gatsby started. I mean, like this, what was that, World War I or World War? It's like that. It was being like dropped in. It's like it was like a cigarette novel for those guys, like, and they would just let those guys be reading that stuff like while deployed about a time that they don't even like really know about. Like, it's like some of these guys aren't like don't know this lifestyle, or they wouldn't even know how to infiltrate these things that are being infiltrated and stuff. But you just think this stuff passes the time, and I'm tired of people not being honest either. And I think there's a lot of people that just aren't into reading anymore because they tried it with their new modern software update and it didn't work. Like they weren't able to sit down and like read the book. Like I talk about this with a lot of people. Like, you ever like hear somebody that like wants to get back into reading and they always have to have some like mood or like ritual they do before picking up a book, and they're like, I'm gonna sit in this corner right here, I'm going to make some tea, I'm going to do all this, and like, just pick up the book and read it. Like, just pick up the book and stare at it until the words start being read, and get in a rhythm. Put your phone in the other room. That is the only way you're gonna get through these novels, because people lie as though they have. Like, if you have like kids and all that stuff, I understand. Like, it's pretty tough to like read a novel with like kids jumping all over you and stuff. My mom always read though when I was a kid, so I don't know. Like, she always did, and she would just say, "I'm reading right now. Stop." You know, like, go figure something out. Why don't you go pick up a book? You know, and so I would. They would say they don't have time, but there's a lot of people who, you know, will pretend that the time they spend away from the book is like not on their phone, and I'm like, no. In any idle circumstance, most people look at their phone nowadays. That's just what happens, myself included. So make that your idle time activity. I do it when I first wake up. When I first wake up in the morning is when I read. And I did that because I was working in construction. If I had to be at work at 6, I'd wake up at 4 and read for this Gain of Fiction stuff. Like, when I was doing that, I'd wake up at 4 and read and do like a little workout, nothing crazy. And then like kind of, I'd feel good about it. And then I would, towards the end of the night, when I wanted to go to bed early, if you want to go to bed earlier, read it in bed. And that's why the Kindle really helps, especially if you're married. You can't just like, you don't have to have the light on. And so you can help, and you read, and that'll knock you out earlier than you need to. Plus you'll read towards the end of it. And maybe in the morning you got to go back a few pages and be like, the last 3 pages I didn't quite get there. But if you do that enough times, you like treat it like working out is what I mean. You know, like treat it like working out. Once you get in a rhythm, you don't feel right unless you keep doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing, and then you will enjoy it if you are trying to get back into it. And you know, the thing too is like, I mean, it is primarily about, you know, enjoyment. There's other kinds of sort of stimulation, and I, you know, personally, I kind of think it's good for you in a kind of direct cognitive psychological way.
Yes.
But like as time goes on, and especially now with like the AI stuff, I'm really starting to see that like having some kind of reading habit is going to be a bulwark against all of the influences that are trying to shorten your attention span and make you dumber. I really think that's the case. And that's not even about like specific book. That's not about the message. It's literally about like the act of sitting down and like reading 10, 15, 20, 30 pages at a time. Like, I actually think it's going to immunize you against like you know, you see these stuff lately, like all the college kids can't read apparently. It's not that they couldn't read, it's that like they've been brain poisoned by screens, and I hate that it's like the most boomer take in the world, but it's true. It's like we've all become dumber and less able to pay attention, and I think if you just freaking, again, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to read James Joyce. You can read Jurassic Park. It's
literally fine. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, start with that. Like, there's people that like, especially I think the people that have the hardest time getting back into reading are the people who were like voracious readers like 20 years ago, and then now are like, let me pick up the Dostoevsky, you know, and start again. And then they realize they're just like, no, I mean, I think the thing I was just thinking about, like, why I took this so seriously as a reader with no product in terms of a book or anything. The reason I took this serious, I used to be a marathoner. Like, I used to run actual marathons. I have 2. I've only done 2, but it's still, it was a lot. My parents have run marathons. It is like, I would never do it again. It's terrible. I had a very weakened mental state because you'd go work outdoors all day and then run 14 miles after work as like training. It was insane. But it was kind of like, you have to treat like these things, like you said, like use it as a, you know, using books that way to read, just go like, look, I would never, right now, if I went back running, I haven't run in like over a year and a half. I walk now and stuff. I couldn't, if I were to go run, I wouldn't go run 10 miles right now. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't go do that. So if you haven't read in a long time, and it's fine, it's our little secret. I don't care. People always think like, it's like, oh no, I read all the time. The last month's been crazy. It's like, no, it's fine if you haven't read in a long time. Pick up something fun, man. Like, pick up a fun little novel, like just a fun 200-page, you know, page ripper novel and just get back into the swing of things, and work your way up and or even stay with those novels, man. Like when you go to like these senior citizen like antique stores and stuff, and it's all just like James Patterson stuff and like the Louis L'Amour and all these authors who, you can feel one way or about another, but that's just what they read. They would read these things like, and most people, that's what sells. So like, it's okay to be a guy who reads just mainstream genre fiction. Just anything is better than the phone vortex, where if you're on your phone, you realize like the time spent is very strange. Like you're like, how did an hour and a half just go by? I didn't see anything I thought was cool.
Yeah, right.
Like it's just like that's a scary thing, And I'm a person who uses the internet regularly. I'm not saying it as an Amish person here,
right?
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm the same way. I mean, I've had to I set timers on Twitter particularly. So like I have like parental controls on my own phone for myself to keep, because otherwise I could just scroll for like 4 hours a day, just be like,
right.
Oh, and I kind of came up because at one point I was sort of like looking, you can see how your time spent on different things. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I spent like 4 hours on Twitter today. Okay.
Sobering.
Yeah, I can't do that. But also like, this too, because you're trying to promote stuff. You can't not be on there either. Right. So you got to try to find that sort of happy
or have a
balance.
guest. I mean, half the time, like you try to schedule a guest or a podcast, they don't give you your phone number. They don't give you, they don't like give you the phone. I mean, I kind of wish we would sometimes. Like some of the people I talk to very regularly, like like I have their numbers, which is a lot nicer. Like I can just be like, we'll text each other, which that feels like such a. Texting used to be the thing everybody was like, oh, nobody talks on the phone anymore. Texting. And I'm like, God, that feels like such a reactionary move to like text, man, or call somebody on the phone. Like you ever call somebody on the phone under 25 and they freeze up or they hang up and they go, hey, is everything okay? You're like, I would rather talk to you insteid of text you what I need you to pick up from Home Depot for this job. But anyways, like it's just this kind of to me it was a way to get away from my phone, because I saw. It was weird. Like obviously the Rare Candy did not start as a fiction podcast. I would have never told you it was ever going to even have a subset of fiction on there. We covered like books like Dissolving Illusions, nonfiction. I was like, man, this is really fun to like just read and talk about this stuff. I said, nah, but no one's gonna care. Now I am hard-headed enough to make people care. I'm like, I don't care if you hate this. You're gonna get 10 of these, so you better learn to like it. This is on you to enjoy it. And we ask people to pay for it, and there's people that are like, well, I don't read books. I go, pick like 4 out of these things. Like pick like 4 to read in the year. And go back to them. And to be honest, I think you can. I've listened to plenty of podcasts about books I've never read, and I think it's still very interesting to hear people talk about it, especially when you can go in and out of the book a little bit. Like it's really fun. But I don't know. I think the phone thing is, I started it to just keep off my phone, to give myself a constructive activity, something that wasn't a take on a current political thing, and then kind of just have a, like if I was truly running like a men's health themed podcast, which I don't know if I'd necessarily call ourselves that, but we definitely touched in those arenas. Yeah. I think reading is a key for men's health, like truly. I spiritually, even as just a pure palate cleanser from whatever the hell you're like caught up in. Like, because if you've ever been around somebody who just watches curated Instagram reels at full volume over and over, you look and you're like, where do we go from here?
Right.
Where do we go from here? Like we need to step back.
The trend line gets like shorter and like more whatever, like directly applying to your like amygdala or whatever it is. It gets to the point. It is, it's kind of cliche to say it now, but it is like a little bit of like Idiocracy. You go to see the movie and it's just a butt and I like it does. It's like there is an aspect of society that's sort of trending in that direction. And I think the easy thing for people to do is to be like, well, that's where how things are going, but I'm not. That's not happening to me.
Exactly.
And it's like, dude, trust me. Like I see a fight on Twitter or whatever, I stop and I watch, and I don't feel good about it. But like, I totally watch it.
Everyone's messaging each other about this shit. Yeah, it's a thing. Everybody does it. Yeah.
So it's like a good, like, it's good to know. I think this is like I think, and this is true of like, not only all these sort of systems that are just designed to like maximize your sort of dopaminergic cycle, right, for clicks and views, but like there's also like this aspect of we're also all propagandized as well. So I think there's like this good thing just to have a self-awareness of like, I'm sort of tainted by this propaganda in certain ways because it appeals to me for whatever reasons. Just having some self-awareness about all of that and being like, being conscious that there's all these like manipulative levers going on. I think, again, this sounds like PBS. Like, what was that dude's name from Star Trek who did the Reading
Leonard
Rainbow?
Nimoy. Gosh, what's his name?
LeVar Burton?
LeVar Burton, yes.
Yeah. It feels like a little bit like Reading Rainbow, but like there is like an element where I do think reading a lot helps you pierce through some of that stuff too, on a very basic, almost like a neurochemical level.
And then you can indulge with the phone a little after. Like you read,
sure.
okay, I read 40 pages today. I read 30 pages today. I read 20 pages. I mean, whatever. You're like, okay, today's not a total loss. Today's not a total, today's not a total, I call it scumbag mode. Like just a scumbag mode. Like, like the other day, I've played like video games with like a YouTube video on in the background. I was like, that's scumbag mode. I was like, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. Luckily, I did that after reading in the morning because there's a lot of people that do that without ever getting away from that. And to me, that's when you start losing masculinity. That's when you start losing like this like fight or flight method about yourself because like your wheels are spinning, but nothing's happening. You're ingesting this high form content. I just noticed so many people cannot slow down ever. Cannot. And people talk about, I've had people hit me out. It's not to brag, but people just say like, how do you read so much? Like how do you cover this book there, this book there? I go, to me, it's slowing down. Like it's actually slowing down a little bit in terms of like I'm stepping away and I'm reading this novel and I have an avenue for it to talk about. So it's like that's what gets me to do it every day. Sadly, is the ability to be like, well, I got a deadline. I got next week. I got to get this done. And it turns into like a quasi school thing for me, which I was never good at. I was never good at school. I dropped out of college. I never was, but. Maybe if I was the teacher, maybe I would have been good, Like it was just one of those weird situations. But to me, it's slowing down. It's stepping back and getting away from something and having a moment of just isolation where your mind is not moving a million miles per second, but like in mud, Right.
Dude, I don't want to get too personal. Like, don't go any more personal than you want to. But like, I know you're having some back issues or something.
Yeah,
lately,
for sure.
Right. And so that's my understanding correct. Now you're basically sort of not working at the moment, right?
Yeah.
That
so the situation is basically I have pretty bad nerve damage in my lower back. It's like L5 S1 degeneration in the disc, and the nerve is disturbed. Now I'm in like a Luigi Mangione situation or whatever that guy's name is, where I'm waiting for insurance to approve a surgery. But I work in road construction, and they won't have me back till it's fixed. Right. So I'm just. Basically LARPing, at this point. And as a full-time guy, it's not a full-time thing, but yeah. Anyways, that's the situation.
Right on. And what I have been, for different reasons, I have been in these modes where like I've had time every given day. I can kind of do whatever I want for a little while. And for me, those are like, you can fall into scumbag mode super easy because there's not even anything to tell you not to. Like there's no. And so I feel like in your situation, this is like why I respect the whole Rare Candy enterprise, because I know you guys are hustlers in the best sense. But like kind of what I'm hearing is like this is sort of a part of your not living 24/7 scumbag mode, which would be the tendency and the draw for anybody in that situation for sure.
I'm glad that this didn't happen like 2-3 years ago. You know what I mean? Or even before the podcast, right? Because like for me, like Sai's in a similar situation. I don't know what he does every day, to be quite honest, but he's around. So I don't know. He's just me and him. I used to not like. We've known each other since we were in 8th grade, and we became like really good friends in 8th grade, and then all through high school. In college, he went across the country to college, but we still talked all the time. And then after college, there would be like a 6-month period where I wouldn't know where he was, and then he would call me from like a Google voice number randomly, and I'd go, "Who is this?" And he'd go, "Hey, what's up, dude?" Like, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey." And so I never quite know what he does sometimes. Like, I kind of like the mystique, to be honest.
That's a bro friendship though, for sure. I've got friends like that where like, as we've gotten older, it's stabilized a little bit, but like, I know he's okay. Like I feel like I would get that sense where I'm like something's wrong, if it was actually. But anyways, like we're both kind of doing that right now. So we're able. I'm the type of guy that's like, let's
not waste this opportunity. You know what I mean? Because we might not get it again. Like, let's just really try to grow the show like this. I think God lets things happen to you or puts things into this world as a choose your own adventure thing. I think free will is the greatest gift God could give anybody. And you could do the scumbag mode, right. or you could try to be productive. And obviously not everybody has a show. Not everybody has this outlet. Not everybody's going to apply it this way, but like do something. And to me, it's just, I'm able to read. And I do three forms of reading. So I read whatever my main novel is that I'm covering for Gain of Fiction. I'm either reading that on my Kindle or a physical copy. And then I usually on my walks, I take an audiobook with me, which lately it's been a nonfiction kind of supplementary biography or something like that. For Sai's book club, he has a book called book club called Psyops, which is really cool too, which is mostly a lot of his hippie like Taoist stuff. So we're doing that as well. Too. And then at night, Right now, I have a tome that I chip away at. Just chip away at a tome.
Yeah.
Right now, it's Gravity's Rainbow. I'm doing 10 pages a night. So that's I'm 125 pages in on that. But
be done by the end of the year or so. Yeah.
That's the plan. So and then Ulysses is after that, and that's the way I want to do it, and I can do that right now because of the way life is set up. Now, otherwise, we scale it back a little bit and stuff. So It's just, you're right. Like I'm in a spot right now. This feels like a very pivotal time that I would hate it if I squandered it.
Yeah, well, that's like something that I have sort of learned. So, like, starting this new podcast was very much like that moment where it was like, well, suddenly a bunch of time opened up in my day, so I could like start up a new thing, or I could go. Luckily, I gave up video games in 2014. Like,
smart
people give up heroin. Like, and I loved them, dude. Like, action RPG, like a Fallout type game. I could I could stay up all night, and I have like a lot of endurance too. So like, I literally could play for 24 hours a day.
Dude, my wife plays like that. It's crazy. My wife does. She does it like once in a while. Like a new game will come out, and she'll like sun up to sun. And she's typically a very productive person. Like doesn't like to sit around the house. But if she gets a game on, she can play for like 10 hours straight, no problem. Like not even move from a spot. It's crazy. Luckily, I can usually cut myself off after like 2 hours or so. But I get it because there's just things like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I have to step away from sports. Sports is my love. I have to like not watch every baseball game all the time. Like I have to like sometimes I have to like do that. It's the same concept. But you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's that's interesting. I didn't even think about the sports thing because I'm not super into sports. I don't have anything against it. I've had moments where I've got into it, but but I could see there are so many games. Like if you're really trying to keep up with it, it's got to be kind of insane.
Yeah, you notice it and I the games I play are sports, but I mean I just mean like live sports. It's like, hey, like I got a show tonight. Otherwise, I'd love to watch this playoff game tonight. But it's like, you know what? I feel better after this. We don't lose when we podcast. There's no losing. That's why that's not true, but there's minimal losing. You'd be a Hall of Famer if your win-loss total from podcasting applied to sports. There's we've taken like 4 or 5 L's in like 5 years at podcasting where you're just like, okay, we'll bounce back. But it's just there's not, it's a lot of fun. And after a while, I wanted people to be intimidated by the sheer number where they're like, we're up to almost volume 60 right now.
That's crazy.
You're the one we just recorded, I believe, is 59 Libra, which will be coming out. So it's like we're almost there. And I wanted people to go, how the hell do you get 60 novels on a book podcast that's not even really the main crux of what they do? And I want to overwhelm people, because I am a consumer. So I like when I see that, I'm like, whoa, there's 60 of these? Right. Sick. Like I want to be like overwhelmed with that. And it really helps, man. Like it really helps to have people to talk to. On Gain of Fiction, I used to chase after big guests. Like I used to go like, man, we can make this pop off. I can paywall a little scheming Irishman thing. Right. I can this will pop off. You find out you get the big guests, they don't read the book a lot of times.
Yeah.
Or they like, if it's a book with a movie adaptation, I won't go too far into it, but I don't want people to speculate. But there's a few times they don't take it that seriously.
Yeah.
We would get people in our Discord who would go, Glenn, anything you want to read, let me know. And I love that because I'll go, all right, Like,
do it.
how about this?
Yeah.
And they read it because they're excited to read it and they're excited to
Right.
talk about it. And you get a better product out of that. And there's continuity, which I learned from sports. It's like you don't want to have new people every single day, like on this thing. And you want to have this mental connection with them. And, you'll be reading the book and know, oh, they're going to like that. They're gonna, that's going to be funny. I can't wait to talk about that with so-and-so. And I think the energy of it is what people kind of flock to at first,
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm super impressed by 60. I mean, I'm also this is my affinity for the whole Rare Candy enterprise, because I sort of recognize some element of me, because
yes,
I like the in-depth, long. Let's go. Let's do it. But I've been thinking, trying to find a time to talk about this on a podcast, because you mentioned podcast W's and L's. I don't think I ever told this story publicly about the 2024 Art of Darkness live show. So I'm gonna spill the beans.
All right, because I was curious myself. So yeah, I love you guys both. So, I love you guys both dearly, but I didn't want to be the guy like, hey, just what happened, man?
No, it's not. It's not going to get personal, and there may even be more to this story than the story I'm going to tell. Okay. But this is kind of interesting for parts of it. I'm willing to talk about. So we had a live show set up in October of 2024. Going to be a Halloween party. It was in the Detroit area at this sort of community theater that's been doing stuff for years and years and years. And I had a sort of friend of a friend who'd had some shows there. It's like, this makes sense. They also weren't going to charge any money up front, so we didn't have to rent anything. It was like, we're going to split the door, so that's cool. I don't have to pay any money up front. Maybe we'll make a few bucks, we had more we had more expenses than we were going to ever make in tickets. Whatever. It wasn't about that, right?
Right.
Spent a bunch of time putting together this very cool shortened version of an episode on Harry Houdini. It's Halloween. Harry Houdini. Houdini died in the Detroit area. It's a spooky, ooky story. Yeah. Really cool, right? Get it all set up. Sold the show out. Had probably 8 or 10 people at least come from out of state to come to the show. Very excited. Just get to meet all these like internet people you see on the internet who are always liking stuff and are paid subscribers, whatever, right? Super cool. Energy's awesome. Show's ready to go. I'm geeked. I got an opener who is this local magician character guy that I've known since elementary school. He's doing great. He's warming the crowd up. And I'm standing out back, kind of like getting sort of in the mood, ready, kind of greeting people as they come in. And the guy who owns, or I don't know if you even own it, it's like this commie thing. I don't know who owns what, if anybody owns anything.
The state, yeah. The state of Michigan.
Right. A dude who is like slightly up in the hierarchy of this entity comes over, and he's, he asks
Comrade
me if
Detroit, Comrade Detroit, yeah.
Right? He asks me if I'm the guy who's, if I'm the host or whatever, and I am, obviously. And he says, we're gonna have to cancel the show. Now, I've got people are inside watching.
It was this close? It was this close? Oh, my gosh.
People were inside the venue watching the opener. We had a magician, comedian opener. Oh, people were in the show. It was me and a couple other people who were like smoking cigarettes, not going inside yet, right? Just milling about. The show hadn't started. We had 20 minutes maybe before showtime. He comes over and he says, yeah, we're going to have to cancel the show. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? Like, what do you mean? Like, we sold it out. Like, what? And he went on to explain that somebody had contacted the venue saying that we were anti-Semitic. And for evidence, they pointed to a Reddit thread where somebody implied that somebody said something anti-Semitic in our Telegram channel at the time.
Oh, my God.
And so based on this complaint, the managers of this venue decided that the show could not go on. That was it. They'd never listened to the show. They couldn't tell me what anybody that had done or said that. The show is about Harry Houdini. It was like the most famous Jewish American, well, of his day anyway. And it was all about like celebrating this dude as this like crazy American character, right? Yeah. A genius of a particular, right? And so that was, I mean, there's not much of a climax to it other than literally I had to like go in and tell all these people, sorry, you're getting your $20 back. I don't know what to tell you. We're going to the bar down the street. If I'll buy you a drink if you want to go.
Wow.
But like, it was some 2015 era cancel.
Yeah.
I have suspicions about who contacted. I still don't really understand it. But basically, we got our whole show canceled because of a comment on Reddit that may or may not have. I didn't even pay attention to the Telegram channel, to be honest. I don't know what was going on in there, which maybe that was a mistake. But that's it. That's how the Artist Live show got canceled.
Dude, I was so bummed about that because I had been, we had goals as to do like a Steinbeck thing in California or something.
Yeah,
like
we
just
talked
something
about that.
Like this that could have been such a springboard for things. And that's what sucks about this stuff. And that's why I've been a little. This isn't something you guys didn't do anything wrong. This is great. For me, I'm like I'm always like whenever another moving part needs to happen or like something, I'm always really nervous because I'm like, not only do I know we're doing the right thing, and I'm speaking like the royal eye, right? Like we're doing the right thing. Like I don't feel guilty. I don't go to sleep thinking I feel guilty about saying what I said, even if it was an edgy joke or something. I just know that I'm like, we're not bad people. Like this isn't bad stuff. Like what we're doing is actually really good and fun. And it just sucks that you realize, like, because I'm not really that mad in the situation at the person on Telegram. I'm mad at the person not having a backbone for this situation. Because if somebody came to me and I got a sold out show, right? I got a sold out show in the house, packed house, people are buying drinks, it's fun, this is great. The person to just go like, hey, you guys should do this, like, I'll be honest, I'll just be like, who are you? Like that's like, remember when people used to do that? Like people used to go like, who the hell are you? And it's not even speaking about that is like that's my problem with a lot of this stuff. And that's why you see a lot of people, you'll see it a lot in social media where there's people I know that if I talk to them privately, it's all like, oh man, I hate the way like stuff is nowadays. Like they don't give guys like us a chance, like and all that stuff. And then like the minute this happens, they're scared to like defend the person accused, and it's out of optics and etiquette, and it's very strange because it's etiquette that has not been a fabric of our society. This is a completely new thing that's happened. I mean, we're talking a 10-year period, and it is still going on. Clearly, I mean, a year ago, this type of thing to two guys. I mean, like you guys never said a damn thing. I thought was like, even if I were to look at objectively grading it like a teacher, like would this be flagged in any way? I've never heard you guys say anything like that. I've seen chat kind of things that I never see anything there. Everybody's really respectful, and it just leads to think like, man, it's really hard. Like there are a lot of people that bend over backwards to appease that person, the person who comments on a Telegram thread. I'm like, the thing is, man, and it sucks that it happened to you guys, but you cannot please these people.
No,
like you can't. They hate you, and that's it. You know, it's
well,
crazy.
that's like in that situation. Like I kind of like. I was a little upset, but I kind of laughed at him because it was like, really? So like, and I wasn't going to, also I'm not going to argue with him. What am I going to do? Convince him to not do it? He's already made this decision, right? It's not like we're going to have a debate and he's going to be like, oh, you know what? You're right. And like, so, but yeah, there is just this sort of like, I'm hoping that is largely over. I think maybe even just in these last, 9 months or whatever that was, maybe that's something that has shifted and we're not going to just like that's not going to work. You can't just reach out to a venue and they'll be like, yeah, I guess we'll fire that person or whatever. Like I'm really hoping that has sort of changed. It
has to, because like, okay, I'm going to say something and if you don't want this in, cut it out, but I don't think it's that bad. I just think it's kind of the climate. And I think this is the way people are thinking. I've had a couple of people, like my buddies, J. David Osborne and Kelby Losak, they get a lot of, they have like haters that are like writers, like independent, like white guy writers. And like, if you listen to Agitator, they will straight up tell you how to write a book. Like they will tell you how to write it, tell you what's cool, tell you what's fun. Like they'll like freestyle storytell and stuff. Like they're supremely entertaining guys, and smart and funny, but also smart enough to know that you got to turn the dumb notch up sometimes. Like there's these really good guys, and like you'll see people that just will. These guys are evil, like fascist Nazi. They're clearly not. These are fathers of like wonderful families and stuff, and just like nice guys and stuff. And I like you'll see it sometimes, and like I'll look and I'm like, dude, you're a white guy. Like, where do you think your friends are? Like, and I'm not saying to be tribal. I am not a tribal white guy.
Right.
But let's be real. whatever you think you're doing has no reward for you. Like there is nobody that's going to go, sick dude, thanks for doing that. We'll publish your book now. Like no one's going to do that. There is none of that. You just martyred yourself for nothing. Yeah. Like it was just, I just, and I'm not even speculating on who the Telegram person was or anything like that. But I just mean, I've seen this happen a lot where I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like what? Just like what is this performance happening? Like it's just such a performance that I see.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is like who is this for, and what problem are you solving? Exactly. You know,
dude, like nothing. Well, they think they're fighting fascism,
that's
which is
what they
crazy.
think. Right?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the delusion of grandeur that's been baked into all of this. Which I think there's still people that think. That even more so now, right? The way the kind of the quote unquote vibe shift that's happened. There's people that now like, oh, maybe this is actually transgressive. This like ninny kind of attitude that I have, and it's not. It's not at all. But I just, for me, I've always been, and it's probably been to the detriment of the growth of RC. But I've been so scared of who we let in, and not so much. Oh, you can come on, and we'll talk to anybody. They can come on our show and talk to them. That's fine. Yeah. It's just like the kind of like people that you sign on to do like multiple things with, or hey, can do you want to do this? I'm always like, I had one person message me one time, and it was it was kind of a bigger writer. Like I thought this person had a nice post about something that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to talk about among other things. And I asked them, I said, and they weren't that big. That's the thing. Yeah. Like to say what they just said. I asked them, I said, hey, do you want to come on our show and talk about this? That'd be great. And they go, tell me more about your show. I was like, no. I just said no. Like, and I was like, there's a one way for you to find out. You can press play. Like you can press play and listen and decide for yourself. Yeah. I don't need you that bad. And then the second time is like, I know that I've had those in the past where I have folded a little bit and been like, oh, you'll love it. It's this, it's that. And like job interview mode. And I've just been like, this person's going to come on here and clam up and not want to talk about anything. Yeah. They're going to do it as a favor. They're going to do it as and the energy is off. And I just, to anybody that's doing a pod, there's so many people that want to be maximalists about it. And be maximalist within what you cover and be okay with talking to nobody for a while, because that gives you like a constitution, and then you're just not like, you don't have to please these other people. Like if you bring in a producer, oh my gosh, the producer didn't like your take on Israel versus Palestine. Right. Now the producer's not sending you the audio from that episode. I've heard these things before.
That's crazy.
It's frightening, like, and I have the privilege of my best friend, the guy who's best man at my wedding, is my co-host. So it's like, if he's acting like a little girl over something on Twitter, like him and I will like yell at each other on the phone. It's never happened, but that's what would happen.
That's the level you could get to. Yeah.
I have sent him posts of people catty. It's very catty what I'm doing. I've sent him posts. And I said, if I ever talk like this, you need to tell me right now, like that I'm being a boop, insert word here. Like it'll just be like kind of like live reaction to this Twitter war. Like, these people that I go, if I do that, you have to tell me, because I don't want to hear it from other people. I want to hear it from you. And it's like, that's a fun ecosystem to have of your thing. And I mean, that story blows my mind, because I knew it was something bad, but I thought you guys were. I thought it was the day before. I thought it was the day before. Like you guys got everything settled, and they were like, "Hey, it's not going to happen," which would have been bad, but like that's. It was a pretty.
I mean, it's a pretty crazy situation, and it actually it gave me a lot of it. It helped clarify like a few things for me, which one of them was like what you were saying. It's like it's never like I really tried to make those people happy, but like it made me realize like, oh, you can't make those people happy. Like there's just there's not, and there's just a lot of, there's whoever like filed this complaint or whatever, it's literally like there's a lot of derangement out there that kind of latches on to like something that seems like quasi political cultural activism, and then like use it. Who knows if the person who like did that is actually experiencing, but it also sort of like made me realize like on my end, it's like I'm going to just stand by whatever I say. And I'm not responsible for anything anybody else says. So like at all. So even like, Glenn, you're on here. This has been fantastic. If you said something on here that like I didn't agree with, I would talk to you about it, but I'm not going to be like, I'm not suddenly responsible for that. And I'm just not willing to live like
Oh,
that. You
dude,
can't.
yeah, that happens to me
Yeah.
all the time. They think people are like, there will be people that are like, oh, podcasts, it doesn't matter. But then like when somebody comes on my show and says something they don't like, they're like, you said this.
Right.
And I was like, no, I didn't. That person
Right.
said it.
Right.
And like there will be times where the person said it, but it was like said something and maybe I disagree. Maybe I agreed. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. But I've just always like, guys, stop. Like this is not, I refuse to look at the world this way. I refuse to do it. And I will take whatever comes to me, whatever punishment, whatever lack of success or anything like that. I have a hyper conscience that gets me in trouble sometimes to where I had to really become ambitious. Like this is a good thing. James Joyce's Dubliners is like, I was read that short story or the short story collection. And I was just like, my gosh, this is me. Like this, every character. I was like, this sucks. It's these two guys. Should I take this road over here or this road over here? Well, I think I'll just stand here for a little bit. You know, like just like I'll just stand here and do nothing because it's better. Or you know, just this kind of like. For a while, I would think that way because you would see two impending dooms, regardless of that was you distorting that or not.
Right.
And I just was like, no, first idea, best idea. Go after it. Who cares? Who cares what people say? And that's the problem is when you bring outside, when you want to expand your show and you're like, let's do a live thing. Let's do this and that. It is like some club owner where it's like, dude, has nobody ever fought in here before? Has nobody ever like busted someone's face up or something? Like some crazy thing, like a vagrant come in here and got like tossed out. Like some crazy, like this is the craziest thing that happens at your
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
I don't mean to look, maybe that guy, who knows, right? Who knows if he was there, but I cannot. I'm 30. I'm about to be 35 years old. I cannot spend the rest of my life just looking over my shoulder, trying to please somebody who gets off on not being pleased. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Oh, that's super well. That's super well put. And it's like, you know, so there's also like a sort of thing where, you know, you the people in your life that you love, the people right around you, you know, your spouse, your good friends, your family you're born with, your kids, if you have them, whatever, like you do got to kind of navigate a little bit around everybody's sort of feelings. Not that you're dishonest, but like you got to, it takes some thought and care to make sure that all goes fairly smoothly. Like, that's enough energy for that kind of thing. I'm not about to extend it to strangers. Like, no. I don't care enough in a way. Also, like, I don't even think my opinions are all that controversial to be honest.
That's what I mean. That's why when I had heard about that whole thing, I was like, them? That happened to them? Like I was like, those two guys are like sweethearts, man. Like they're nice and but like, and not even to like defang you guys. You guys do say, like, you guys make good points and like say, but you guys are very civil in the way that you speak. Like I mean, like a lot less flappy and loose than I can be at times. Like it just happened. I'm like, that is insane. And like, I remember texting Sai, I was like, holy shit, we're never throwing a live show. I just go, because like for me in California, like I don't do well. Like I did broadcasting for a long time. I did college radio, which was fine. You had the FCC compliant stuff that you had to do, but everyone has to have those rules. Whatever. Everyone had to use those rules. Yeah, you couldn't say piss. That was a weird thing. You could say like. Yeah, because no bodily excrement. You were not allowed to talk about that. It's crazy. So you couldn't say like welcome to the morning commute. Are you pissed off? Like you couldn't say that. Like it was weird. It would just trigger this like this response, and like the station would get fined or something like in that. And we had like 50,000 listeners at this radio station, so it was like pretty interesting. It was like a pretty solid like thing, and it was all just disgruntled underground rappers. It was so funny. Like the whole audience was that, and it was the best. And they'd call in, they'd be like, I knew that guy. I saw him. You know, I saw him at Paid Dues in 2003. The guy sucks.
I beat him in the battle junior year. Yeah.
ACL. Why are you playing AC alone? I hate AC alone. Me and him, all he does is play hacky sack outside, like just stuff like that. And we would have these things, and I remember getting into that. And then for my major, and again, this is like a Libra thing. People know. I'll tell you the ending of the story. I dropped out of college. Yeah. So then this is the stuff that happened in between. Now I'm Lee Harvey Oswald, and I go to I joined a news program because I was like a class where you get in the production studio and you just do like campus news where they just talk about the statue behind us that's here,
Yeah.
and that's the news story. But you were to learn how to do all these things, work the camera well. Sometimes you'd be the reporter, sometimes you'd work the soundboard, sometimes you'd do all these things. And then after a while, like I was like, oh man, I really want to get into communications and broadcasting. And everyone would go, cool, like, but there was so much structure and so much like stuff you couldn't say, and it was like just follow the script. And I was like, I lost all love for that. I lost all love for it. So when you get these conditional situations, like where it's just so conditional and the conditions change all the time because it's this Terry Gilliam Brazilian bureaucracy thing happening, where it's just the incoherence is kind of the weapon, and you hear all of these things where it's I love what I do, but the minute I had someone telling me like, nope, can't say that, oop, cut that part out, oop, do that, I go, then it becomes this job that I'm trying to escape. And does that ever exist? Does that, like, can you ever make this a full-time thing? I think some people can. And it's just, that's enough to keep me going, but it's tough, man, because I legitimately quit broadcasting in my early 20s because it wasn't fun. I didn't want to read an ad for hospice care. You know what I mean? Like, I'd play some Mobb Deep on the radio, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, go to South Bay Hospice Care. Does your loved one need some help? And you couldn't be funny. Like if you tried to be funny about it, like Nick Mullen style, they wouldn't let you. They wouldn't let. They get pissed, dude, because they paid for that air. Like hospice is not funny. I'm like, I just played, I just played Eye for an Eye by Mobb Deep. Can I the person listening probably wants to be entertained a little bit.
Right. Can't we have a wink at least?
Just something. I'm like, guys, like this is my show. Do not try to tell me, like the auteur or something. Like it was that part. I'm really sensitive to that. And I think, there comes this time where people go like, oh, and I know it's, cliche to say that this is an issue. And it's like, no, the thing is like, you have to like hammer that and beat it to a pulp and poison the soil that it grew in, because that stuff is going to come back all the time the minute it becomes viable for people who aren't that talented and aren't that prolific in anything except that. Amen.
And and even like there is just this like, I guess this is sort of like, maybe this is like a Gen Xer thing, part of me, but there is just this sort of like, I'm definitely like a sort of a free speech absolutist. I don't know what the absolutist part means, but I would put myself more toward that camp than anything else. And that's even, I don't tend to talk about a lot of political stuff sort of like in public like this. Part of the reason for that is like, I don't know any more than anybody else. Like I'm not really in a position to share my opinion because I'm not going to tell anybody anything they haven't heard. So what's the point of me talking about it? That's kind of part of it. Also, there is like a thing too where the political stuff is really delicate to talk about, obviously. But like you will see somebody like, I don't know, fill in your a celebrity who's had a political opinion, and it's sort of like maybe they just tossed that off, or that's what everybody around them was saying, and so they didn't even think about it, and they just said it, and suddenly like they don't have a career anymore. And that's pretty screwed up. But like, I'm not even interested enough in politics to even like roll that dice. If I want to talk politics, I go talk with my friends, or I get on the phone with somebody. It's just not really my bailiwick. But like, at the same time, like I do think you have to like push back against anything that's trying to say that you can't say whatever you want. You have to find some way to push back against that for sure, because you'll just lose it otherwise.
Which it didn't used to be the most like, it was partisan, but like, it only became a partisan thing like 15 years ago, like the actual free speech absolutism and like what that's coded with, like what you're actually saying. People say, well, you mean that for just white men? I'm like, no, dude, trust me, I want it for everybody. Like I want a level playing field where we all can say what we can say. And people say, well, you can say whatever you want, but there's consequences. I go, yeah, those are fake. Like I swear, no, those are fake. That is creating a fake consensus on this thing, because nobody has a backbone anymore whenever they're confronted with something. So it's like, that's the whole trend of it all is fake. But I agree with you. Like it's just, I'm an absolutist in that sense, because I just want I want everyone to just not care. Like, I want people to like change the station, like go to another podcast if you want to listen to something else. Like, go to this is a relatively new thing. And Bret Easton Ellis talks about this in his nonfiction book called White, which if you were to read it now, it kind of sounds like Daily Wire-ish. Like, but he was talking about it like when it was prescient to talk about like, and this is a gay man from LA who is just like, probably not really political ever once in his life.
Right.
Like, really, I don't think he always talked about, he's like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know anything about anything. But the only thing he would pop up with is free speech stuff. And he wrote American Psycho, and there was a huge backlash for that. Like, a big one. Legit cancellation happening from that book. And he was like, we can't do this. He used to have liberal people on his side in those things, because there was this liberal, like, edgy quality of liberalism where people would say, like, I say this all the time, I used to have teachers that were like Rain Stick, listening to Ben Harper, you know, just like total, like, quiet down class with the Rain Stick. I used to have that. We would read like kind of like civil rights stuff, and they would say every word out loud, and they would say it in that Patti Smith way of like, let's not silence ourselves, say the word, you know, like they would do this. And I'm not saying to bring that back or anything. I just mean this is a new iOS that these people have, where it's like, no, the word triggers an AI reaction to where I then have to find out where you work. And it's this like weird thing where I'm like, is this a colony of ants? Like, what is happening? Like, this is very strange. And, like, so what I mean is, like, people will say, well, I'm not right wing, and I'm like, okay, but that didn't used to be an explicitly right wing thing. And when you talk about the art, right? It happens once a week on any social media thing. Is art political? And then big, huge discourse happens. Yeah. And I found this the other day, and again, you can tell I haven't been working, and I probably shouldn't even be making these connections because as to show my screen time being maybe a little higher than it should be. But I would see a lot of people saying, well, right wingers can't make good art, and then you'll hear people say, all art is political. And I've seen people hold those same viewpoints. Right. And I'll go, I can tell that there's a lot of people anybody who advocates for free speech, anybody who advocates for not communism, they consider right wing. I'm like, well, so then all those people make great art. Like a lot of times. So there is good right wing art then by your own, by your own redesignation. By your
definition of what's right, which is like 90% of people, then
And I simply hate the fact that like that means like you have to like, you are this side, you are this, elephant GOP thing, like if you advocate for free speech and and they put it in like air quotes because it's supposed to mean something that it's not. Right. And it's like it is like I do believe that most art there is like politics in there because in the same way that I think hardly any art is actually nihilist because they sat down and did it. They were feeling a certain way. There was a certain emotion in there, and even if the story ends in like an ambiguous, somewhat nihilist way, that person was sat down and realized like I have to pour some thoughts out onto the page. Yeah. So politics will get mixed in there. But nobody views anything like that. It's all just this like, this is Christopher Nolan's actually right wing, and you're like, all right, man.
Well, the reason my like resistance to like the whole like all art is political again. Art. I mean, you can do a political reading on any piece of art, and some art is overtly, intentionally, deliberately political for sure. So, but like my sort of qualm with the whole thing is like, generally the people that say it, what they're looking for is some surface area that allows them to cynically criticize any piece of fiction or poem or song or movie through their like 2010s college-educated humanities activism program. And so that's like what they're basically saying when they say that is like, all art is subject to my BS. That's what they're really saying
to my bachelor's.
Exactly.
to my bachelor's. Yeah, exactly. That BS. Yeah.
And so that's why that's like when my big resistance to it is. It's like there is like a political whatever. Yeah. There's also a thing where like if you say all blank is blank, all art is then it doesn't mean anything for something to be political. Like, what does it mean?
That's what I mean. You've already disarmed. You've already like resignated to the fact that, like, well, anything that gets put out in the world, which I somewhat agree with. Like, like if I sit down and make like a long form work, I'm feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm feeling some kind of way. I think back in the day, people used to be a little less heavy-handed with a lot of their stuff, which I think people could learn from that. And like that's where I think plot comes in a lot of times. Is like in terms of writing, is like a nice plot can actually create a layer of separation between like your overt politics or political views and this. You know, I don't know.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you lose me for a second?
I lost you for a second. Yeah, that's right.
Like,
no, I took your meaning.
Yeah, like you get like it creates a layer, like it's a good plot where it's not just somebody shouting politics at you, and then you're like, well, this is political art. It's like, oh, this is a great plot. This is awesome there. And then there's a few Easter eggs in there if you're kind of thinking the way I'm thinking, you know,
right.
like that's why I like when people do that, and that's why I also don't like the reaction cycle. And you know, people will listen to RC, and there's a topic that'll come out, and I'll go, oh, this happened this week. Let's talk about that. And but it's not like, this happened, we have to talk about it because this is what happened. It's more so like, this happened and it's something I'm interested in. Let's talk about this. Whereas right now, the people who are free speech advocates are like, a lot of them aren't creating things. And I'm like, man, and part of it's maybe the outlet's not there, because the quickest way for this stuff is to like, Ben Shapiro reacts to woke TikToks. It's like, all right, the time for that I think is past. Like I think there was definitely a time for like to just be like, well, look at what's happening over here, guys. This is insane. Like to me, it's like the reaction culture still puts the side that's oppressing you into power because you're reacting to what's coming from up top. And I'm like, I just reject that it's on top completely. What I hate a lot of times now is when I watch a movie or a book or something where like they're trying to poke at cancel culture. They're trying to poke at this or that. And they say, and I'll get canceled for saying this, I'll do this. And they'll like put that line in there. And I go, please stop admitting they're in the room with us right now. Right. The best way to do this is to talk about them like they don't exist.
Yes.
And not even for plausible deniability, but just going like, oh, sorry, I was not thinking about that when I said that, because I'd never think about that. You know, like these people, they created this. They created this, like, you know, and I think there was a lot of like right wing reaction people like in the current thing culture that really made the, you know, the free speech censorship stuff like really powerful by just constantly referring to it, you know, and that gets to a deep spiritual like collective conscious thing, you know, that it bothers me, and where I just like to reject them. I just go, look, man, you know, I will address you if you come at me, but for the most part, like I'm not going to say everything as though you're right here.
Right,
in my
exactly.
Face. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do that because you won if I did that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the cop in your head, man. You got to get rid of that cop first.
The cop in the head, man.
For sure. No, you got to like, absolutely. There's, that's super interesting. You know, it does kind of remind me, you know, that there is something going on here with this sort of like, culturally, this reaction to like and maybe this is how it's always been, but like I've noticed this thing. I've started getting more active on Substack lately, and if people are out there in Substack and are listening to this, what's up? But one thing that I've noticed, there's a lot of essays and a lot of really well written. They're perfectly cogent and intelligent and stuff. But there's so many. There's so many essays about that are sort of like bemoaning the state of culture or some aspect of culture or whatever. And again, a lot of them are really well written, but there's like this way in which it starts to just drown out anybody that's like doing something in the positive sense.
Yes.
That I'm just like, well, okay, how many essays do I need to read about, you know, fill in the blank that like dudes can't get published when like, I'd rather just like, well, let's just freaking get some stuff published. Like, what are we doing?
Publish a dude.
Yeah. Like,
let's publish a dude.
Because one thing I've kind of realized is like, one thing I realized, and this is part of my my experience in sort of the publishing industry, and in you know, I tried to stay in academia in 2013, like get a job, and they just said we don't, you know, you're not welcome here, basically.
So, bro, you're not exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, that's okay, and that's okay. I've come to peace with this. But what this all made me realize, and like working for like places that did publish people and all this, like. You realize, like, all this stuff just comes down to some people in a room And so, like, yeah, like what you're saying, like, you don't have to pretend that you're also in that room. Like,
Right.
that's just 10. Some of them are powerful and some of them are rich and some of them have a say. But, like, ultimately, it's just some people in the room. Why do you assume that they know anything you don't, or what they know is more valuable than what you know? It just, like, who cares? I'm totally with you. I think the whole thing we're in now, this mode that we're in now, excuse me, is like, we'll just rebuild all of that crap over here. Just
yeah. Well,
right.
and there's a good example of I have a friend who I record with, Low Res, Wonder Bread. He directs films. He has a film called Mass State Lottery that's. He's being very careful in terms of how he rolls that out. I mean, I feel like since I've known him, this has been like, movie's been like finished and stuff. I've had a chance to see it. It's fantastic. It's completely unique.
I've heard you talk about it. I keep seeing stuff about it, and I'm always like, when can I actually see it?
Well, not to brag, but I got the private link. I don't want to brag. But he's being careful because I asked him, I said, what's stopping you from just putting this on YouTube and just being like, watch my movie? And he's like, I saw the look in his face, very chill guy, but like, the look in his face, he's like, I will tear my face off, like my own face off, with my own nails if I do that. Like, you could just see it in his face. And I was like, nice. Like, I like that. Yeah. So long story short, he has his own podcast called Movies, and he talks about movies, and he definitely doesn't shy from talking about political things, of any of this stuff. He will go. He just puts his film out, though, and he has a tangible object that he puts out. And I think in Italy, he'll have to forgive me, but like he wins like a Best Director award in Italy at this film festival. Wow. What does that mean? I have no idea, but that's sick. It's an award.
That's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? Like, you're putting it out and stuff, and then it's shown it at places in Boston. I mean, this dude was persistent with it, and he could have just put his thing out for free, cheapened it big time, which, to be honest, that's probably what I would have done, but it would have been the wrong thing. And if I just couldn't find a home, I couldn't find the exact right home. Right. And like, I want to highlight those people, right? Like, people that have, and it's tough. Like, I don't always have time to read people's books, but I'm trying to. Like, I'm trying to like read them and mix them in these things. And that's why I think the short story needs to come back, like, big time, because the short story lends itself to audio more than people think. And I think people consume stuff through audio now. And that then is like this advertisement, and we can maximize it, make it into a drama or music with all of these things. But like, what I was getting at with Low Res is he's just like I'm proud of like what he's done. And there's other people, J. Curtis Miller, Darius Cheeky, like, these guys are good. I won't say explicitly right-wing filmmakers. They're different. I'll just say that much. They're different than what you would normally see getting out there. And they're not scared of this stuff. And they didn't just go into a shell and start crying about how the world works. They still put their head down and work. And those are the people I want to highlight, rather than the essay of, now, where is a man supposed to get published?
Right, exactly.
Now, as a man, and it's just this. It's a black pill. Like, when that stuff happened, even if it's fundamentally correct.
No, that's the thing I've learned. That can all be true or whatever, but like, you still gotta. What it wasn't going to be hard. Like, even if all the doors were open to you, it wasn't going to be hard. Like, you weren't going to have to get up and write. Like, for me, you weren't going to have to get up and write every day. Like, what was it? It was actually going to be. It doesn't fundamentally change that much whether you're welcome in those environments or not. You know, obviously, I would love to be like in contention for a Pulitzer or something, but like in reality, like, I don't know, man. Maybe some stuff's better when it's harder, I guess.
Well, and that's the thing. You think about a lot of like literary authors, like giants and heroes. Like, a lot of them were like kind of passed over a million times. Like, it's like it's the genre plot heavy writers are the ones that sold. So that's why I think you got to find a balance. Like, write one of those, write one of these, and you'll be. And like you said, you were working on something that was very plot heavy and stuff, and you realize, like, not only is this like scratching an itch of like challenging myself, this is probably coming out really good, I would imagine, and also just like, this is fun. It's telling a story. It's storytelling. At the end of the day, you're a storyteller, right?
Plus, like, plus, dude, like, it's like anything. I've also, like, you got to just get better. Like, one thing I've always done, and I have a sense that you're probably this way, is like, I sort of like try to lean into my weaknesses. When I'm not good at something, I'm like, I told my wife this, is like, I cannot stand not being able to do anything. Like, if there's like anything that I can't do physically, mentally, whatever, it bothers me.
Yeah. Only thing I gave up on was writing. The only thing I gave
Yeah.
I would write, and
Yeah.
for one, it was this straining thing to like write a paragraph. And anyone knows me, I can talk for frickin' ever. There's
Yeah.
8,000 hours of my voice out on the
Right,
internet. Like it's crazy. So I know it's not that I'm short on words. It's just it never felt natural when I would write. Would never sound like my voice, and I'm like, I don't know. It's not for me, right?
Yeah.
But for everything else, it was like I hate. And I learned it when I was a kid. My mom was a very strict mother. Like, she was a very strict mother. She would it would really bother me when I was a kid, but I'm so thankful for it now. Anytime we would meet somebody, one of her coworkers, anything like that, she would get so mad if I wouldn't make eye contact. Like, make eye contact with them and shake their hand and stuff like that. But I genuinely, when I was a kid, I struggled with eye contact. And it wasn't this like, it wasn't that I was scared of the person. It was that like my mind would stop. I would look at them and I wouldn't be able to say something. You know, it would just be this weird thing. I had to learn how to do that. My whole life I'd have to learn how to make eye contact. And instead of just like, oh, I guess this is life now. I can't make eye contact. It was
I'm just an anxious person. I don't look people in the eye.
Yeah. You do it, and it's hard. It's arduous. It's not fun at first. It's like kind of embarrassing a little bit. But now you do it, and you realize like half the time in a job interview, that's like the best thing you can do is shake somebody's hand and like look them directly in the eye.
Yeah.
Like I apply that to everything. Where, you know, we could have easily as a show just been like, let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about this every single week. Right. And then we'll do a premium subscription where we'll talk a little bit more about COVID, and you can pay for that and listen to more COVID talk. Whereas I was kind of like, no, this is like, these are time capsules for us. Like, what are we interested in the moment? You know, and it fluctuates from week to week. Sometimes our listeners have finally figured out that like, actually it's fun to just listen to the stuff instead of reading the info. I've almost toyed with like never describing what's in the episode in the thing, like
right,
just so people could listen. And, but I realized like, we're just like, no, it's going to take longer. It's going to be a little arduous, but it's always going to feel right to do. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's always going to feel right. You'll always be centered on that one prize at the end of it, you know.
Well, I think about these sorts of things in terms of like, you ever like run into those guys who like, in order to like get laid or get a girl to pay attention to them, they lie and they make stuff up?
No, I've never seen that, Brad. But yeah, no, I have. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, to me, it's like, I mean, I get why you do that in the short term. Like, it makes sense, like logically or whatever, why you do that. But like, ultimately, like, there's no way that works out long term, right? Because you're setting up like an entire false thing. And I think any like long-term project like your podcast is sort of the same way. And it's not that like if you were to focus more narrowly, that'd be being dishonest. But like there's this way if like you just build the thing that it's the build it and they will come. If you just build the thing the way that you want it, well, when all the, you know, and I know a lot of people listen to your show, but like let's say you get to a point where 10 times as many people listen to it. It'll be your show. It won't be like some artificial thing you concocted to get listeners 10 years ago that you have to keep doing. It'll be your thing.
Which I wouldn't enjoy. Like, I'm telling you right now, I have this weird conscience where I could have a nice-ass house. I could have cars, all of these things. I could have a Traeger grill. Right. You know, I could have all of these. I could have all of these athletic greens every morning.
I could own everything that Joe Rogan advertises.
Yeah. But that's a perfect example. He sleeps like a baby at night. I bet. I mean, he times it. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he has all the metrics of it. But because it's his show. Yeah. You know what I mean? I know there's all sorts of theories about is it his show? Is it? No, I think it is. Like, if you listen in long form, you're like, no, he's just an impressionable guy who loves to like talk to people and have fun. So like, but for the most part, he's doing what he likes to do. But for me, if it was the show, not so much that like, oh, okay, you're going to interview this guy that maybe you don't really care about that much. That's fine. Can I interview him my way though? You know, like, can I interview him my way? Can I probe? Can I do this? Like that I'm fine with. But if it was something completely divorced of what I am, I probably for one would weaponize that within and just self-destruct a little bit. Like, it's not good. I come off as, like, a chill, fun kind of guy, but I deal with a lot of stuff going on. Like, just in my, like, I fight World War you-know-what in my head, whatever number. Like, in my head every single day. Yeah. Self-hate, self-doubt has happened a lot. Like, it's really bad. So if any of that stuff was ever happening, like, it's it'll come out. You'll see it. Like, it'll come out in the final product, and I don't think we would maintain that audience. Like, I just think it would come to a collapse. So it's just, to me, I've told Cy, and Cy's even more so this direction. Yeah. Like, because he's a dude that has looked objective success in the face, but it's not him.
Yeah,
it's genius. This guy's I'm telling you, this guy is a genius. Like, he doesn't even say half the stuff that I know is like some of the craziest stuff going on in his head. He has had opportunities to work here, do this and that, but he's like, yeah, but I might want to kill myself if I do that. And it's like, you have to do your thing. If there's an idea in your head, if you're a writer and you're like, yeah, but no one's going to read that, write it. Just write it. Like, see what happens. You know what I mean? And after a while, your energy, the confidence in putting that idea to paper. Now, is it going to sell 1 million? Who knows? Does anyone sell 1 million? I don't know. Right. But you're gonna. If I can read. I've read a self-published book by somebody. I thought it was just, I could tell they were writing it because they thought it was like the time to write something like this. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. And it just didn't work. It fell flat. And then I saw somebody write. There's a lady named Emily Russo who wrote this book called Vivian, and it is like. It started out, and I told her this, it started out with tweets at the beginning. I said, fuck. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But it was fantastic. I mean, and I read it, and I was like, this seems exactly like what was on her mind at the time. And exactly like what should have happened, what was going on. And we interviewed her. She's great. And, like, she runs, like, a very esoteric Substack, does, like, horror, is it astrology? Yeah, astrology, like all of these, a lot of really cool stuff. But I was just like, man, it was so nice to see someone where I can read it and I could tell. I was like, this is exactly what they wanted to write. That's what they wanted. And it was a world that I don't know anything about, like art, New York art gallery cancellations and stuff. But I was just like, it doesn't matter, And I buy into people is what I do. Like, when I tell people about our show, they'll be like, yeah, well, one week you talked about Mel Gibson, and the next week you talked about diphtheria. Like, what is, like, what are you guys talking about? I said, no. The people who listen to our show listen for us. Like, it's not the subject matter. My favorite authors, I don't care what their book is about when it's my favorite authors. I never, like, and this is fine. This is an average reader, but if you recommend a book to someone, they go, what's it about? I go, just read it. I don't care. Just read it. I'm telling you, this is a great book, and
I love those. I love getting recommendations like that. Something I hadn't heard of. Once I've signed up, somebody recommends a book or a film to me, and I sort of trust the way that came to me, that I'm going to like it. I will not look into anything. I won't watch a trailer. I won't read a summary. I'm just like, I'm just going to read this. And then that's the most beautiful experience. You get a book, say, that you don't really know anything about, except maybe who the author was or something. And then you just get that fresh experience where the only experience you have of it is the thing itself. It's harder and harder to do now, I feel like.
Yeah,
but I love
it's tough because you genuinely, like I said, you have to show your face a little bit more. You have to kind of go out and they'll be like, oh, I saw that guy being weird on Twitter once. Is this book really good? Because he was on Twitter, because that's what you kind of got to do a little bit, or Instagram, whatever, TikTok, doesn't matter. Like there's. As you get older, you care less about it, I've noticed. Yep. Like, I'm so glad RC started. It was a 30s project. I turned 30 the year we started RC. Like, that was there. I am so glad I wasn't 24 for many reasons, because it just I would have had, like we said, the cop right here, the rules. I always say there's certain people that talk like the cameras are always on, like those people that talk like that. I would have been that person, despite living in a world, almost 10 years ago where there were less cameras. Like I still would have conducted myself that way. Whereas, nowadays it's like, man, there is a freedom of turning, a certain age, because you're like, first off, I don't even talk to half my friends anymore. That's just the way it goes. Not a bad thing. We catch up every once in a while. Yep. Same here. And so it's not there's none of this stuff. I'm married to someone who, bless her heart, I'm batshit insane, but she just seems to think it's cool. I guess. And as like James Joyce Dubliners I am, she's the most bubbly person of all time, and it's a nice yin and yang situation. Awesome. And so I'm kind of like, I kind of have I'm kind of playing with house money, and as much as sometimes I'll look and I'll check the analytics of our show and I'll go, that should be 10 times higher than it is. Yeah. I will say, like, I'll go, I am playing with house money, though. Like, I am at the end of the day. Like, I get to go every time I'm done recording a show, even the shows that aren't that great, I'm like, that was awesome. I feel great. Like, I feel just awesome. Like, this is the right thing to do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, on that note, man, I'm going to let you go. But first, what is next on Gain of Fiction? What are some books that are coming up?
Oh,
just so people
man.
can know.
Let me pull up my handy dandy list.
And I know for folks who listen to Method Madness and don't know as much about Rare Candy, you will get a sample of a Gain of Fiction when the Libra episode I'm going to have on my paywall as well. So if you dig that, then definitely go over there, and you should.
Which you will. That's an awesome episode.
Yeah,
I was buzzing after that. Like, I felt so good. So coming up, is this coming out soon? This
it'll be out in the next few days.
Okay, cool. So coming up will be The Plague by Camus. Libra by DeLillo. That's coming out after there. The Map and the Territory, Michel Houellebecq. Tropic of Cancer, Henry Miller. Sharp Objects, Gillian Flynn. American Psycho, Bret Easton Ellis. The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And then then just absolute 3 bro novels after that. Bro lit. As I Lay Dying, William Faulkner. Confederacy of Dunces, John Kennedy O'Toole, and Suttree by Cormac McCarthy.
Dang.
So that'll be coming up. There's a lot of stuff, and I would like to promote just one more thing on here, because it's kind of like it's kind of a work in progress that I'm kind of serializing right now. But we do short story reads on here. I'm trying to become a narrator, because I feel like that's my way of like kind of like helping out without writing anything. So I do short stories, narrations. We have 3 out so far. They're all only available on our YouTube channel, which is at Rare Candy Clips on there. They will eventually, once we get a full body of them, they will eventually be an album on Spotify. I'm very influenced by 2 things: Michael Hansen's Mind Webs, and then which is awesome. This you can get those on Internet Archives. It was a University of Wisconsin college radio guy all through the 70s that did student productions of like classic serialized sci-fi, like
I gotta check that out.
Harlan Ellison. I mean, big stuff. Like, he was doing big stuff at the time. Ray Bradbury, like a lot of these great short stories. And I was thinking, this might be the way, because I used to, I don't know if it's still around, but like Ghost Jail, right? Like things like that. I was like, man, these guys are smart, man. Like, this is a good idea. And I was thinking, like, what if we just read the short story verbatim? We read it verbatim. And I have a producer who I didn't know how musical they were going to become. I was like, oh, it makes, a bed of like ambient, like Trent Reznor like music or something behind this. This dude's playing guitar solos. It comes out crazy. Like Nick Farrell, shout out to him. He's a great musician. But recently we did Anna Krivlapova's Skin in the Game. And if people haven't read Incurable Graphomania, that's a fantastic short story collection. And I legitimately think she's a star. Just like has the voice, like that is a unique voice that she has, and it comes through every time. But we take those and we put music underneath them. They're fun, try to turn them into dramatic and stuff. So I am always taking submissions for short stories. It doesn't matter who you are. If it's good, if I can read it out loud to myself and think, wow, that works. There's no rhyme or reason to what I pick, but rarecandyindustries@gmail.com. I am doing an audio of my first novel right now, but that will resume coming out.
That's good. Short stories. I've recorded a little bit of audiobook. It's time consuming, man. It's fun.
Reading out loud is hard.
Yes.
It is, and it's not like when you're on a podcast, right? Like when we were doing it, you read like that Rolling Stone article. You can stumble on a word. You can they call it swallowing a word when like a little spit, clouds what you're actually saying. On an audiobook, like you have to say slithered and did this, like instead of slithered and did this. You have to say all of that stuff. The takes, I mean, like some chapters take an hour to read. Like it's just it is wild. But it's a good. Some of my favorite things, like when we talked about Poe on Art of Darkness, I was listening to some short stories of Poe because they do these really cool BBC productions of all his stuff.
Those are great.
Christopher Lee, you know what I'm saying?
So
like Sauron, he's reading the. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. Like we need to bring this back. but again, refine it a little bit and like make it palatable with good music, good beds, even just instrumental beds, and great stories that people can then get a sample before they buy the book of these people. You know, and I think that's the way to go. So
check those out, people. I've listened to all. I think is there 3 of them out so far?
There's 3 of them. 3 of them so far. Yeah,
I've listened to all. They're great. You guys are doing amazing
Max
work
Thrax.
with those.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Max Thrax is published on there, and then Kelby Losag was the first one.
Right.
And they're with Chicken and Waffles. But like all of that stuff can be found out there, and I thought it'd be cool that people could like look up the story online and follow along if the music's kind of taking you out of it a little bit in terms of like reading the plot structure. It's just I want to be a maximalist with this, and I think I agree that the great American novel or story or anything can exist. I just think we need to toy with the playbook a little bit, you know, and how it's deployed. So that's what I want to do. Is it going to work? We'll see, but I think we'll have fun either way.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for your time, man. I really
you.
appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk again soon. I think people will enjoy this conversation. And check out this Libra episode, Gain of Fiction, that's coming out soon, behind the paywall. But nonetheless, there are, as you heard, there'll be basically 60 episodes.
That will be
Gain
number
of Fiction
59, so that comes out, yeah.
Amazing. There's got to be an episode on a book that you love in there, and you definitely want to hear what Glenn and company have to say about it for sure.
Oh, man, yeah. No, thanks again, man. Not a lot of people have me on to just talk about, like, overall holistic like books and stuff like so it's fun, man. There's a lot of things that needed to be said, so that's good.
Absolutely. Amen. Thanks, man.